Take a moment to peek into the lives of inspirational people living the true definition of happiness with author, presenter, personal stylist and coach Moana Robinson, who chats to people who have overcome challenges to live their best life. Moana is a passion and purpose coach and a personal stylist who empowers others to discover their best life and style regardless of age. Here is Moana.
Hello everyone, it's Moana Robinson here from Be Style for Life. Today I'm taking a moment with Christine Innes, and she has got a business called the Corporate Escapist. I've met you a couple of times. I think the first time was when you were at Tracy Eaton, a really good friend of mine, at her art studio, and you held an event there, a beautiful event there, which was so much fun. And I think the second time I met you was when I came to your face-to-face meetup down at the marina.
Yes,
Yeah.
It was so lovely. It was so good to actually, like, we talk on Facebook so much, and then to actually see you face to face.
I think it's really exciting when you feel as though you know someone on Facebook or social media, and then you actually get a chance to catch up with them. So I'm really grateful that you took this opportunity to take a moment with me.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm so excited.
This podcast is all about women and how they've overcome challenges to now live their best life. And I look at you and I just can see that you're glowing, you're living your best life now, or you seem to be living your best life. You're a successful book publisher and you've got a magazine. Can you tell me how or what, is there a challenge that you've overcome that sort of helped you to push through and get to the stage that you're at now?
Yeah, there was probably a whole heap of catalysts that happened back in 2015, and it just wasn't one. So the first thing that happened was I got diagnosed with 2 life-changing illnesses. Then I realized I was in a very toxic, unfixable marriage, which was my second marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I then needed to file for bankruptcy, no income coming in, everything, was piling up. And then I ended up sleeping on my parents' couch. And that all happened within 1 year of it. So it was just sort of like a catalyst of so many different things that had happened. Back then, I did not handle it very well. Mm-hmm. However, now it was actually the best thing that ever happened to me, because it got me to where I am now. And I don't believe that I may not even be here, because I was very sick back then. The doctors didn't have a very good life expectancy for me back then. So yeah, it was the best thing that happened, because it got me to start asking different questions and really get me back onto purpose to what I'm doing today.
What was the biggest challenge for you? Was it the relationship? Was it the health issues? I suppose it was all of those challenges combined in such a short period of time.
It was. And looking back now, do you know what the biggest challenge was the identity crisis, because it was going from somebody who had always had a job title. Like, I started working when I was 15. I had a corporate title by the time I was 17, and worked my way up into, big, management roles. And then for someone, so my son was also, like 17, I think, around that time. So, he doesn't need mum anymore, and then you're not someone's wife, you don't have a job title. It was almost like all of that stripped away. It's like I didn't even know who I was without even having all of those other things that were going on as well.
Mm. So how many children do you have? One son?
Just one, yes. Yeah. And so like at that time, sometimes, like, I don't know if when you're growing up, kids are growing up, it's like, oh, hi, I'm so-and-so's mom, or that's how you introduce yourself. Yep. Or you go to events and you introduce yourself by, like, if you're in corporate, like, oh, hi, I'm so-and-so from this department. Without having that, I actually didn't even know who I was, because that's all I had lived by, was my job title and also being a mum.
That's so common, I think, that whole identity crisis, and that really covers a lot of the challenges that you had. It's interesting that you sort of picked that out of all the challenges that, that kind of encompasses everything, doesn't it?
It does, because I mean, like most of us will always have a health challenge, in our life, and you can sort of, you deal with it, you adapt to it with it. I had already gone through one divorce, so it was almost like I sort of knew like what to expect, because this was very, very different. It was very toxic.
Yeah.
However, then not knowing who you are, because going through that first divorce, I had a job to go to. I was still, the mum, like I still had other things to sort of cling
Yeah.
to.
Mm,
Now with that, I actually had nothing to cling to.
mm. But you had you.
Yes.
This is the
Yes.
thing that a lot of women don't realize, that even if they lose all those titles, they're still
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah. But then trying to work out who you are when you've lost it,
Mm,
it's almost like going back and being a child again yourself, and actually learning, how to walk, how to talk, how to, the decisions, or even just asking what you want, because you don't, sometimes when you get to life, you sort of can just be, I call it sleepwalking. It's not like you're actually participating properly in it. You're just on that daily routine every single day. Whereas now I literally had to sort of try and be present and actually start asking different questions.
So sort of almost like you're a spectator in your life and not actually playing the game
Yeah,
of your own life, like actually being
exactly.
in your life and being in control of
Yeah.
your life, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there was days when I worked in corporate where I would get to work and I actually could not remember how I got there, because you are just so on repeat. Like, the same route that you take, where you park your car, like where you would get your coffee, you go to your desk, like it's just the same.
Mm.
Um, so it's literally just a repeat every single day. It's like that Groundhog Day.
So how did you get out of that situation, like after that last whatever you were going through at the last time, the last thing that
Yeah.
happened? How did you pull yourself out of it, like after that identity crisis? How did you find yourself?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. So
Mm.
it's sort of like I like going, hey, I want more.
Yeah.
And it was just that little glimmer, just sort of like going, hey, I do want more. And
Yeah.
then I started remembering, a few different things that obviously I'd been very privileged of working in corporate and being in management and personal development. So I started to remember some of those sort of, ideas that, were talked about. And I started implementing those. And it was almost like giving myself permission to dream again, to actually go, well, what do you want? Not
Mm.
what everybody else was expecting of you, but what do you want? And I guess I was at that fortunate position where, my son was all growing up. I did not really have to parent too much.
Mm.
And it was just allowing myself to sort of focus on myself with it. Um, but then it was just, the reading, it was digesting so much on YouTube and listening to other people who had, gone through challenges and had come out the other side, and just sort of going, oh, well, it's actually possible. Like maybe, just maybe. And it was sort of just that one step, and it didn't happen overnight. It literally was, a few years different sort of process that I needed to take to be able to, start to, I guess, reignite that passion again for life.
Mm-hmm. And what were you doing? Like, did you go straight into magazine publishing, or were you doing some other? Did you?
No, I started life coaching. I started just like I thought, oh well, you've been through so much, like maybe you could help other people.
Mhm.
And it was also good learning for me, because I'd been following a couple of people, and I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll do their course. So I actually started to do life coaching, and I started doing that, and then started to go to networking groups. And I was very fortunate that people there were starting to see a difference, and they asked me to share my story. And I did an interview back in 2019. I found it the other day. It's hilarious if you ever want to go back and find it. So and me sharing my story, what I realized was I actually let go of shame and guilt, and that really was the turning point. And then I realized the power of stories, And what snowballed sort of through there was an interview series. I then turned that into a YouTube channel, turned that into a podcast. Then in 2020, got the idea for a magazine in a meditation. I saw it and I thought, oh, okay, well, let's see. Within 3 months, I'd launched a magazine, which is now about to turn 4. And then a couple of years ago, it started to work out a way that it could leave a further legacy for people with their stories. And the legacy is more of, it's a way of you healing, because I always find that, writing is a great healing process.
Yeah.
But also, too, for anyone, it's a legacy. It's always going to be there. And that's your blueprint that you leave, to this world. And then self-published books, and then started doing in-person events. So it was it seems like a lot, but it's been over the last 5 years that, constantly moving and adding different ways, but it's all around the power of stories.
So these books you've written and published, and inspired life, and empowered life, and enlightened life, and a resilient life, and you've got another book coming up, an authentic life.
Yes.
These are all compilations, and so have you met all these people who have got chapters in these books?
I have. I've had the absolute privilege, and these people are around the world. And this is one of the things that I absolutely love, is that, there's a thread, and everybody has this invisible thread where we're all connected by stories. And actually being able to, for me, I feel like I get a coaching session every time that I read their story, and, I get lifted up by, reading it, but also then hearing it. And then the privilege of being able to publish them as well. They're really trusting you with their life work. That's a really big responsibility.
Oh, it sure is. And I always think that to be inspiring, I see you as being very inspiring, that first you would be inspired. So then you're sort of paying it forward by you get inspired, and then you in turn become inspiring, and other people get inspired by you. So inspiration is a really positive thing, because it's what gets people going, creating books and magazines and helping other people.
Yeah.
What would you say that you love most about your life at the moment?
Oh, it's the people. I love, hearing their stories. I love, the connections, and, just you don't actually know the ripple effect that you have on somebody's life. It's really, it's a really beautiful thing that you don't know that you're making such a big positive impact on it. And it is literally just, you showing up and being yourself. And I used to think that I had to be so much more, but if you all you have to do is just be yourself.
Be yourself, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And is there anything in particular that you're looking forward to in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, well, we're celebrating the 4th birthday of the magazine in June. So that's really exciting, where most magazines are closing down. We're just getting bigger, which is amazing. And I am relaunching actually some of my coaching programs. So I sort of pulled back from coaching because obviously the publishing world sort of took over. But that's what I really love. I love, being able to see people take that next step, and, just really showing them what's possible, and all the tools that I've learned over the last 9 years to be able to now sort of package that up for people as well, for them to be able to take part in that and learn from it, and then help implement that in their lives.
So the magazine's called the Corporate Escapist, is it?
It is, yes.
Yeah. And then you've got a bridal magazine as well, too.
I do.
Yeah.
It's called Justice Planned Weddings. So again, it's all stories. It's all about the wedding vendors and why they're so passionate about it. So, yeah, I'm always busy, Moana.
You are very busy. You're very busy. Very busy, very bubbly, very inspiring, and just absolutely glowing with passion for what you do. Have you got any tips for people who may be going through some challenges right now, to sort of give them hope, or some ideas or some inspiration for how they can carry on to lead their true purpose in life?
Yeah, first of all, it's give yourself permission to dream. I think so many times when we're stuck in those sort of moments, and I call them moments because they're not ever going to last forever, just actually give yourself permission to dream big and think of a day that you would love to live on repeat. And that day could be how you want to wake up in the morning. Who do you want to be surrounded by? What's the conversations that you want to have? What's the environment that you want to be in? And then you can actually start looking about your current sort of reality, and you can then make small changes to be able to, step into this life that you have dreamt for yourself, and realizing that it's actually not that far away.
So true, isn't it? It's like having a vision for your life and then taking steps
Yes.
towards that vision. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
really appreciate that. I'm sure it's going to help some other people, and I appreciate you taking the time to take a moment with me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, beautiful. So excited.
And hopefully I'll see you at the next meetup.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Thank you for listening to Take a Moment with Moana Robinson. Remember to visit her website, bestyledforlife.com.au, and book a time for a further conversation.